Okay, so we are here again for another session that's inspired from a tasting, which I have just had. So I do confess I have had a drink or two. And in reverse order, we have had the Vallserrano Crianza, which is a very nice Crianza. We have had the Gran Reserva Blanco, so a white Gran Reserva, which is not very common, but is amazing, and we'll get into that in a second. And we have had a plain old Crianza, Rioja Blanco, and I keep forgetting to do this because I have already had a drink or two. Some amazing wines, and I like these for two reasons. One of them is that the white's over the side. I've now done two of these virtual tastings, and I have to admit, and you'll probably see from this, that I'm not a big fan of white wines. But on both of these tastings that Steatham Wines have done since we've been in lockdown, from at least two of them, my favourite wine has been a white and a Spanish white. And that, I think, is great because at the end of the day, the reason why I joined, you go to these tastings and you join clubs and you join these tastings. The reason why you do this, why you do tastings, why you go to different clubs, why you go to different vineyards and taste, is to open your mind, because otherwise you end up drinking the same stuff again and again and again, which is not bad, but it is nice to do things differently and have different experiences every so often. And so, yeah, I'm pretty excited about the three wines that we're going to do today, and we should probably get into it. Now, the first one which we had was a Rioja Alavesa. Now, Rioja Alavesa is quite interesting because most of the Riojas that you have are from Rioja Alta, and Rioja Alavesa has always been a bit sort of marginalized, I suppose. There have been English wine houses like the Wine Society, who I think had La Bastida, which was sourced from Alavesa, if I'm not wrong. We're going back 10, 15 years. But I like Alavesa. I like all Rioja. I like all Spanish wines. I even like, for example, Artadi, who came out of the domination, and I believe is Alavesa, or in the region of Alavesa. But white wines I find a little bit too simple in general, except the really expensive French wines. And so it was very refreshing now to have two white wines, Spanish white wines, one of them especially which came with a lime green plastic cork. And okay, I'll let you know, I am a snob about very little things, very few things in life am I snobby about. But one of them is I can't generally be dealing with screw tops or synthetic corks. And I get it. I get the practicality, right? I understand why we have them and their benefits, but at the end of the day, it's like a marketing person told me from a beer manufacturer, in that the difference is all in the experience. And whether you have a beer from a glass bottle or a Coca-Cola even from a glass bottle versus a can is very different. And the same with wine. That sound when you go and open a bottle of wine with a proper cork and cutting the top is just very different from a synthetic cork, and leagues of difference from screw top. Anyway, we get back to the point. We have here the Crianza. Now, it's very interesting because it's a very clear wine, and I like that. It's very crisp. This is Malvasia. Viura, obviously, is the majority, and it also has Chardonnay. And I think both of the wines taste like Chardonnay, but only one of them has it. And this is the only one with Chardonnay in. It's probably very small. amount, but this is a white wine that makes people who don't drink white wines like white wine. I could have this with any kind of food. I wouldn't want to carry on drinking it all night, but it's not a one glass white wine. It's not a one glass of frozen white wine. It is astonishing. It has oak, it has fruit, it's crisp, and it is pretty good. However, it is not the next wine, which I'm going to pour a little bit more of, just to freshen it up. These are all at between 8 and 10 degrees, and I have been using various methods to keep them at that, which is quite stressful. But this is a Gran Reserva. So this has been a long time maturing in the barrel, and my God, do you notice the difference? I mean, look at the two colors. One of them is transparent. This almost looks like a sauterne in terms of its color. But where you really notice the difference is when you bring it to your nose. There are not many people in Rioja or in the world who make such a complex white. And it isn't cheap. But it's not as expensive as the whites that are this complex. And this is a recurring theme, and a current and a recurring theme. So I have an excuse now. I have been drinking. It is a current and recurring theme that Spanish wines generally develop and deliver a level of wine for the amount of money that you pay that is, on the whole, better than the rest of the world. And this is no exception. This is as good as a very, very expensive French Chardonnay that would easily cost you £50 or more. And it's £37 from Streatham Winehouse. It is so complex. Every time you bring it to your nose, you find another flavor. And it's funny that in the tasting, everybody went to the, to the fig and to the spice and the nuts and all those kind of things. But what I was tasting from this, which is quite special, is it's almost porty and it's almost martini. And I don't know if you know that, but in the martini world, there was the Vesper martini. And the martini that was used, or the vermouth that was used to flavor the martini, was in theory Lillet, or in practice Lillet. But the Lillet that we have today is a very good vermouth, but it's not the vermouth that was of the original times. And so Sacred in Highgate in London made the proper vermouth. They make very expensive vermouths and they make very fine vermouths, and this has the flavor. It has the port, a really good white port. It has these lovely flavors that nobody else on the tasting seemed to be in tune with me on, but I honestly think that they're there. And if you look at this color, I mean, this is a white wine that if you blindfolded a lot of people, they would think it was a red. It is so good, so good. But we're still on good. We are going to and I've still got the thermometer on, but we're going to the crianza. Now, I will confess that I have been drinking Riojas for a long time, and Riojas have always been good value. The cork doesn't promise very much. But Riojas have always been good value, and so, especially when I was younger, in my first jobs, I could afford Reservas and Gran Reservas and Crianzas, and I used to drink a lot of Reserva and Gran Reserva just because it was around. I think there was a period of time when Spain was in full growth, when everybody went for the Riojas and Gran Reservas, the Reservas and Gran Reservas, and there was a general hedonism that thought that Reservas and Gran Reservas were better than Crianzas. And then there was a pause. And I don't know if it was just me, but if you look at crianzas like this, and I think this pause was more or less when we went from, all of the Riojas went from having oak for the malolactic fermentation to having steel, which must have been from the late 90s to the early noughties. And the following repercussions were that crianzas became amazing, reservas became amazing, and grand reservas became amazing, but very different. There were less knife and fork and more fine. I mean, they were just more complex. But where I noticed this especially was with the crianzas. And this is a crianza which can fight it out with any reserva. I mean, I said in the tasting and nobody seemed to care, but I don't care. Because there was a very funny comment that was it Pablo de Simon of Vallserrano said that it is important for a wine to have personality. Like it's important for a person to have personality. Even if nobody likes it, it is important to have personality. I think that is one of the most wonderful things I've ever heard, because it is important. I would take a person with personality who nobody likes any day of the week over a dull person who molds themselves to whatever bullshit surrounds them. And the same with a wine. I will take a wine with personality any day of the week versus a generic Me Too kind of wine. And honestly, I mean, this crianza is £15 a bottle, so it's not cheap. There are many reservas, and even you might even scrape a Gran Reserva for £15 a bottle, but you will not get a Reserva or a Gran Reserva for £15 that is this complex. And I mean, it is just amazing. I mean, I haven't taken notes as usual. I mean, I keep looking at my notes, but I haven't taken notes, and so I can't remember exactly what was said. But it is just a really stunning crianza, and it has all those fruits like the cherries and dark fruit that everyone talks about. It has the hints of vanilla that everybody loves. It is. I mean, you could drink this all day long.